Welcome to the Peter MacKay Motorsport Podcast, and today is a very special episode indeed because not only do I have a fellow Scot on the show, I have the voice of rally himself, Colin Clark. Colin, thank you very much for coming on to the show.
You're very welcome, Peter. It's a pleasure to be asked onto your programme. Thank you.
I know, and I must say, for those who aren't aware of who Colin is, you must go straight onto YouTube, press pause and go straight onto YouTube and type in "thoughts from the kitchen table," and within 5 minutes you'll get a very clear idea of what Colin's all about. Why don't we start with that, Colin? We'll talk about your rallying journey as a whole in a minute, but tell us about the kitchen table, because I have to say that is a highlight when a new kitchen table episode comes up.
Yeah, it was a strange one, to be honest with you, Peter. It was one of those situations. It came out of a podcast radio program that I started a few years ago. Total Rally, it was called. Nearly 10 years ago, we started Total Rally. And for one reason or another, it just wasn't going the way I wanted it to go. So, I binned that concept. But I then missed the great thing about Total Rally was the ability to give opinion, to voice opinion, thoughts, views, or gossip, whatever it might be on what was happening in the world of rallying. And I thought, how can I do this? How can I do this, in a way that maybe people will listen to? I thought, well, I'll just sit and I'll do 5 minutes at my kitchen table and I'll just give the rally fans the opportunity to hear my views on a topic. And I can't even remember what the first one was, but I sat down, set up my telephone at my kitchen table to record it, and off I went. I thought, yeah, that'll do, 5 or 6 minutes. It was 22 minutes long. It was a 22-minute monologue, and at that point I thought, well, I really can't be bothered with editing this down or any of that sort of nonsense. Just put it up and see how it goes. And it went remarkably well, and people listened, and it's just grown and grown and grown over the years. It's not a regular thing. People have always said to me, why don't you do these every week or every 2 weeks? It doesn't really work like that. It's when I feel that I've got something that I can contribute to a debate, an argument, a topic, a discussion, I can add a little bit of value to. And that's when I do my kitchen tables. And at times there are 40, 50,000 people watching them now, sitting listening to a monologue.
Oh my goodness!
From a slightly deranged Scotsman from Dundee. It's not a bad little effort.
Goodness me. And so tell us about your kind of brief summary of your rallying journey. Of course, most of the people know you from the stage end interviews in the WRC and the kitchen table, but tell us where it all started and how you got to where you are today.
Well, if we talk about where my love of rallying, my passion and involvement for rallying started, it was back in 2002, back when it was a different life for me, to be totally honest with you. I worked for a big tobacco company. I was a marketing executive. I'd been there for 7 or 8 years, I guess. And, part of my remit was to look after sponsorship and events. We sponsored the St Leger Festival, a horse racing festival in the north of England. We sponsored a Formula One team. And then it was Christmas 2001, just before the Christmas break, I got a phone call from our global marketing director, who was a very, very scary Eastern European person. And when the phone went and someone told you it's Jimmy Rimaszewski, goodness me, it was one of those moments. And he basically said, look, we're back involved with the Subaru World Rally team, and sponsorship deal's been done. Did it last night with David Richards. Make it happen. And that was it. So it was like, oh, hang on a minute, I don't know an awful lot about rallying. I obviously recognise the 555 Subaru World Rally team name because we'd sponsored them previously. I hadn't been involved in that initial sponsorship, that really tremendously successful sponsorship in the late 90s. But yeah, that was it. It was just before Christmas, and Monte Carlo was our first event. So we had a month or so just to get things together there, and I looked after that sponsorship, and it was fantastic. And it was at a time that deal was done within the company that I worked with, really to facilitate another deal. It was all part of ProDrive taking over the running of British American racing.
Of course, yes, of course.
Yeah, it was all part of that, and David Richards was very, very clever and managed to persuade, is maybe the word, I don't know, BAT to also sponsor his rally team again. But it was almost an unwanted sponsorship. It was something that cost quite a lot of money, But in terms of the Formula One budget, it was nothing. It was nothing. It was like, we're going to sponsor this team, go and do it. But everyone within the company, it was a massive worldwide company, was absolutely fixated. Certainly all the marketing sponsorship people fixated with Formula One. Nobody really cared about rallying, and I had free reign for a couple of years to do what I wanted to do. And it was a huge amount of fun, and that's how I got into it in the first place. I then left that job for various reasons, kind of semi-retired for a bit, missed rallying, and had the opportunity to get involved in rally radio. And I did probably 13, 14 years of rally radio and absolutely loved every minute of it. It was a fantastic opportunity. It was something I never thought I'd do. There's a bit of journalistic background in my family, but I never thought I'd get involved in anything like that. But my first event that I did for the radio was Cyprus 2005, and I remember taking my little brother along, who's done a little bit of presenting and broadcasting in the past. I took him along and said, look, if I can't do this, I'm going to pass the mic to you and you're going to do it. But the second the first car arrived at that stoplight, it was like, oh, this is just the greatest thing ever. I loved every second of it. Yeah, so it was the radio really that got me started, and from there gone on to do various things, a bit of television, a lot of radio, a bit of presenting, and just really having a lot of fun and making, what is my passion, my vocation in life, and it's I'm very fortunate in that regard.
And was being involved with such an incredible organisation as ProDrive and drivers like Peter Solberg and Tommy Mäkinen and with the budget at play from a tobacco, was that where it really sort of sparked off? Was that where that passion began then, being involved at that level of sport? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember sitting at dinner with it was 2002, I think it was, and Peter had just won his first rally. It was Wales Rally GB.
Mm-hmm.
He'd won his first event, and we had dinner on the Sunday evening. It was team dinner, and I was very fortunate to be sat at the top table. And Peter was there, Pernilla was there, Oliver was there,
wow,
in a pushchair. David Richards was there, Nick Fry was there. He was involved at the time. I think Nick Fry's now involved with Mercedes and Formula One.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
We were at the top table, and I remember sitting there thinking, to be totally honest, I felt like a little bit of a fraud, because what I knew at that point was that the people at my table were the very best in the world at what they did. The very best.
Yeah.
Without any question. Richards is a remarkable man. David Richards is a quite remarkable man. Peter Solberg, clearly best in the world at what he was doing. And then I looked around, and the mechanics were there, the engineers were there, the chefs were there, and I thought, it's not just this top table. It's this whole room is full of really the best in the world at what they do. And it was quite humbling, and it made me think, how lucky am I? How lucky am I? I'm just a marketing bod for a tobacco company. How lucky am I to be able to sit amongst these people and to be part of this just quite remarkable journey that they were all on, at that point, which was, taking Peter Solberg the following year to his first world title, his only world title in the World Rally Championship. Yeah, it was absolutely where it all started. And there were different days, in those days, there was money. There was a lot of money. We spent a lot of money on various projects that were a lot of fun. And it would be nice if that kind of money was still around in rallying and motorsport. It's not, sadly, and it's had to adapt, with the loss of tobacco money through every single form of motorsport. They've had to adapt. No one really has stepped forward. Yes, we've had the energy drinks with their big budgets, but no one has come in since the demise of the tobacco companies with the kind of budgets that we had to spend. And you know what? You could argue that motorsport has struggled really since those days, but it's not in a bad place. It's really not in a bad place. And I'm just very happy to be part of it all.
Yeah. When talking about the tobacco money, what was the silliest thing that you saw from your perspective in motorsport? What was the you think when you thought, was there ever a point where you thought to yourself, going, this is just daft?
I stood in a car park outside a storage facility not far from Banbury, and I watched a shredder shred £100,000 worth of motorsport jackets, we'll call them. I won't give you the brand.
Okay,
£100,000 worth. I watched once as £50,000 worth of branded lighters were sent to the skip.
Oh my goodness.
Massive money. Massive massive money. Just some remark. There were reasons, and there were good brand reasons. I mean, you could argue possibly not decent fiscal reasons, but there were good brand reasons for what they were doing at the time, and it was always justified. But you look back and you think, it was eye-watering amounts of money, and there was some wastage. There was some very good investments. We spent some money on some really good projects, and a lot of drivers got their opportunities because of tobacco money. A lot of promotions, a lot of television programs. Remember, were backed by, perhaps television money. By tobacco money, not backed as such, but wouldn't have happened had it not been for the involvement of the tobacco companies. So, there were good days, and there was a lot of kind of head scratching and a lot of oh my god in those days.
And you talked about the rally radio there. You and Bex Williams, starred in that much missed initiative. Do you think that's a project that could be revived, and if so, would it be something you would dive into again?
I've moved on. I love radio, and I love the immediacy of radio. I love the responsibility of radio, because we're at times we would have 200,000-300,000 listeners for the big rallies, and it was our job. We were the fortunate ones who were able to travel the world following the sport that we loved. But our job was to take our listeners on a journey with us, and it was quite a responsibility, and it was a responsibility I loved. And would I get involved again? Absolutely. But I'm having the time of my life right now working with dirtfish.com. It just is the most fantastic project. But I would say that I think it is very strange that for whatever reason radio has been dropped, because the World Rally Championship really was a great opportunity for radio, because of the places we go to, the action, the various. There's so many different elements, so much colour around the World Rally Championship. It really was perfect for radio, and I remember when we started radio, it was a struggle. Radio was becoming less and less popular because not so many people had radios, and then all of a sudden there's this explosion in internet usage on your cell phones, and cell phones and data packages were the savior of radio. And then podcasts appeared about 10-11 years ago, and there has never been a better time to be involved in sports audio. They're really struggling with television rights and selling television rights, but audio rights for sports around the world, big sporting events, are in huge demand because it's so mobile. You don't have to be sat in front of a screen to watch it. It's in your ear when you're driving your car. For motorsport, it's particularly relevant. Really, radio is the only media that you can consume while your manufacturers, your Ford, Citroen, Mitsubishi, as they were in the olden days, anyone that's involved in motorsport, their marketing will come through the internet. It will be perhaps television based, but the only actual marketing route that they can, if you like, use within their product is radio and audio. You can listen to them. Right. You can't read newspapers, you can't read magazines, you can't watch the telly while you're driving a car. You can listen to podcasts, you can listen to audio, and they are fully aware of that, and they're fully aware of the enhanced value of that. And as I say, I am very, very surprised, and I'm really surprised and disappointed that this year on the official World Rally Championship app, that they have completely dropped the audio service. It wasn't really a radio service, but when they dropped the World Rally Radio, they then, and it was not ideal, but it was something. They offered the audio feed from the All Live service.
Makes total sense to me.
That's now gone. That's now gone as well. And
wow.
It's odd because rallying is a 3.5-4-day event at times. No one can sit in front of their computer for all 4 days. No one can afford it. People have got lives to lead, but they want to follow their favourite sports. And they want to catch up on WRC All Live. Great. Give them the opportunity to catch up. Give them the opportunity to catch 1 or 2 stages a day live if they can afford the time. But also, you have to give them the opportunity to stick their earpods in while they're working and listen to it. And that opportunity is gone. And to be totally honest with you, I question that. I think it's a very, very poor decision. And I would hope that somehow they could find a way of at least as a minimum, bringing back the audio service, which was the audio feed from the television, the all live television. But more than that, I genuinely believe that there is a place for proper radio again from the World Rally Championship. It was exciting, it was engaging, it was dynamic, it was entertaining, and it's gone. And I think it's a loss. I genuinely think, in terms of the whole media marketing mix around the World Rally Championship, I think it's a big loss.
Yeah, I would agree completely. And also, to me, from an efficiency point of view and a fiscal point of view, I mean, obviously the all live, if, like you say, if you have the time to consume it, which a minuscule proportion of even the most diehard of rally fans have, the all live service is really, really impressive, and how they can deliver that in so many different locations around the world is amazing. But if you've got that amount of people and technical equipment on site, surely an audio, like you say, even just lifting the audio from the all live service, it seems a no-brainer to me.
You've got people at stage ends.
Yeah.
You've got people in the service park. You really just need one person pulling it all together. What I found, I enjoyed my time working for All Live, and I was very thankful, when they did abandon the radio service. I was very thankful that at least I had a job working for All Live. Mm-hmm. But, it's one question at the stage end, and then you wait 3 minutes for the next car. Mm-hmm. For the first 3 rounds of 20, whatever it was,
17, I think, wasn't
17,
it? Yeah.
First 3 rounds, we were very seamlessly almost integrating radio with the television. So we would talk with whoever was hosting, whether it was Bex, whether it was Lisa. Mm-hmm. The car would come in, you would pause, obviously, for the TV feed to come across to you. You would ask the question for the television, another pause, back into the analysis for the radio. So yeah, you're absolutely right. There are efficiencies there. The people are on the ground. There is no real reason, other than finding budget for a studio and the studio host, no real reason why we shouldn't be doing it again. But that's out of my control entirely. I'm in a position now where I'm allowed to offer opinion, and that's all I'm offering you is my opinion on it. Mm-hmm. But I have no influence over it. I have no ability, sadly, to go out and get it all up and running again, much as I would like to. But as I say, I am massively enjoying what I'm doing just now with dirtfish.com. It's a huge opportunity, and it's a huge amount of fun.
Well, tell us about it. I'm very curious about dirtfish.com, because they've made a huge impact in the sport and made a lot of noise in the last 12 months, and picking up people like yourself and David Evans. I mean, it's still unusual to not see David Evans' name on the pages of Autosport and MN. But you tell us more about the project and what it's all about, and what the organisation's trying to achieve in the sport.
Yeah, I have to say that particularly in the past 5 weeks since Rally Mexico, David Evans has been quite phenomenal in his ability to continually. The danger in this period. There are 2 dangers for any media outlet in this period. One is being too nostalgic and looking back with rose-tinted spectacles at the glory days of the past. I interestingly got an email overnight from a promoter of one of the most successful motorsport series in the world, and I was asking him whether we should be doing a few bits and pieces because his events have been cancelled, maybe looking back and all the rest. And he said, Colin, these guys are making a massive mistake. He said they're making a huge mistake because what they're showing is how great a lot of these series were 10, 20 years ago. And the comparison to what the fan is getting now is glaringly obvious. They're not getting what they were getting.
Yes.
You have to be so careful, in pushing the retro and showing up basically, perhaps where you're failing just now. The other issue is keeping the quality. If you are going to keep a reporting service and you are going to stay true to your beliefs and to your standards, keeping the quality is very, very difficult. And David Evans has done a remarkable job of keeping relevance, keeping quality, keeping interest on the pages of dirtfish.com. He is the most incredible journalist. But yeah, the project has been put together in the right way. It's an American company owned by a gentleman who has been really very, very successful in his career, and has done everything the right way during his career. He doesn't accept anything less than absolutely the best. Sets very, very high standards. And he basically wanted to establish a media outlet for rallying that was independent, that wasn't a mouthpiece for anyone, for a team, a driver, a promoter, an organizer, that had absolute independence and that had journalistic integrity, journalistic standards, and also was very, very much focused on the fans and giving rally fans what they wanted. And they got together with a couple of people at the end of last year, and the project basically was put into place, and I was very, very honoured to be asked to be part of it. And yeah, it's a great environment to work in. For me, they've employed me to be me, which there's no better offer, to be totally honest. They know what they get with me, and that's exactly what they want. So it's great. It's great to be part of a really dynamic team. It's great to be part of such a company that basically does things the right way. And it's exciting. We're in the early days of it. Obviously, nobody planned for the situation we're in just now, but the situation does present opportunities, and we're trying our best to make the most of those opportunities. And fingers crossed, we'll come out the other side in a relatively strong position. So no, it's exciting, and there are big things to come still, and we're looking forward to bringing them to the rally fans. It really is all about the rally fans for us. It's not, as I said earlier, it's not about teams, it's not about championships, it's not about promoters, it's not about governing bodies. It is about the rally fans, and what we try to do is to deliver what rally fans want, and I think we're getting there with it.
Well, that's a very interesting point you make, because I think with obviously the situation we're in right now with coronavirus, etc. But when we do return to rallying, it would appear, I mean, who knows, but it would appear that some form of spectator list or reduced spectator rallies, in my opinion, the media's role in the WRC is about to become even more critical than it already was. So. In your view, how did you think is the best way for the WRC media as a whole to go forward, and how to tell its story the best?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there are some very big challenges ahead if we want to go rallying again in the next 7 or 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
I think realistically, traditional rallying, where people can go out in the forest and watch rallying, in my view, and it's just a view that's formed from reading as much as I can, from trying to work out, what's spin and what actually might be reality. It's very, very difficult. But in my view, we won't be having any spectator events before the end of the year in this country. And I doubt it in most of the world, to be totally honest with you. When I say events, I mean any sort of event. I mean, soccer, rugby, any kind of motorsport. They just won't allow it. We're not in a position yet in terms of, where we're at with this virus to allow mass gatherings, and I just don't see it happening. I really don't see it happening, and unless we plan to somehow work out how we run events where we reduce the number of spectators, the concentrations of people in the service park, then we're in a very, very tough situation, and we have to come up with some suggestions, some plans, some workable solutions. Because you put forward the plan to run a traditional rally right now, and I suspect 99% of the governments around the world are going to turn around, or not around the world, but within rallying domains, are going to turn around and say, no, you can't do it. You can't do it that way. Go away and think again. We've got plenty of time to think. I'm sure the people at the top are having these discussions, and they are working things out. There's not a lot of communication, but you could argue that perhaps they don't have to communicate with us yet.
Yeah.
But I'm certainly not really hearing an awful lot of alternative plans. I put this question to Richard Milner in a podcast, in a video that we did last week with the team bosses. Should we be looking at perhaps different formats for rallies if we want to run rallies before the end of the year? And he made a very good point. He said, look, we will have to look at different formats, but it has to be rallying. It has to be rallying.
Yeah.
I talked about maybe running one-day rally sprint type events and having those as counting towards the championship. And he said, it has to be rallying, and I get that. So, maybe if we can't run rallies, then the only thing to do is to wait. But you're right. Come January the 1st, we're not going to go back to a completely normal situation. It could be 18 months, 2 years, it could even be 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about running Formula One events in the UK in June, July. They're also talking about running a Formula One event in the Netherlands the week before that. Well, as it stands, the UK government are seriously considering a 2-week quarantine period for anyone coming into the UK. How does that work? All of these factors just make planning so difficult right now. And I genuinely don't believe we will see things back to normal. Certainly not for another year, maybe 18 months. That's not to say we won't be rallying for another year or 18 months. I don't think that's the situation. But we will have to adapt. We will have to look at ways of running things differently. And to go back to your question, that does mean that the media will have an enhanced role in delivering to the fans what they want. I think sometimes we forget that, if we believe the figures that come out from WRC, there are something like 800 million people around the world watch the WRC program. That is a massive audience. Wow. It's a massive audience. And we're talking maybe 80,000 people go to Wales Rally GB. So, much as that is a big figure, 80,000 people, it is a very, 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 very small percentage of the people who are interested and who watch Wales Rally GB. So the most important audience for me, and it always has been for rallying, is the global audience. It's the people that follow it through the internet, through the television, through the radio. And how we then continue to deliver for them a rally product is the challenge. And that, you're right, does involve the media, and perhaps should involve a little more discussion with the media from the rally organisers. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But it is challenging.
One other factor that springs to my mind constantly is, if there weren't already huge pressure on getting these new 2022 World Rally Car, or Rally 1 I think they're calling it, rules correct. I mean this situation that sprung up during that negotiation, that's going to make these rules even more critical to the future of the sport. Obviously we know we're going to have hybrid technology. From your point of view as a former marketeer, what do you think is more important to the manufacturers taking part? Is it promoting the hybrid technology to their consumers, or is it as a test bed to develop the hybrid technology itself?
No, listen, that's a very simple question to answer. Hybrid technology is old technology. It's old technology. It's been in Toyotas for 20 years.
Yeah.
As a marketeer, it's a difficult one because, as a marketeer, number one, post this crisis that we're enduring just now, you'll be looking at value for money. You'll be looking at relevance. You'll be looking for how you interact directly with your potential customers. All of those things will be front of mind in terms of marketing spend, and how manufacturers, sponsors will be looking to spend their money. So, we have to make sure that we remain relevant. For me, rallying has always been about new technology, testing, proving new technology. Are we going far enough for 2022 would be the question. What 2022 does give us, what hybrid does give us, is it gives us a little bit of, if you like, environmental acceptability.
Yes.
We are doing something. We are going in the right direction. We are looking at it. So it's a justification. Pre-coronavirus, a justification for green credentials would have been enough. Post-coronavirus, is it going to be enough? I think we'll have to wait and see. I firmly hope it is. I really do. But for me, the new regulations, before and don't forget, 7 or 8 weeks ago, no one had any idea of what was lying ahead this year. No one had any idea.
That's right.
So it's very difficult to criticise these rules because there was quite a lot of negotiation and discussion went into formulating them. But we'll have to wait and see whether it's enough. The big hope was that we would bring new manufacturers into the championship, and that they would see the value in testing, demonstrating the ability that they have to bring forward new technologies into their cars, and hopefully that will still be the way. I think whatever way, it's a step in the right direction. But the problem is it a little mini step? Is it a stride? Is it a leap? And I'm not sure. Well, I'm pretty sure I know which one it is. Which one we need, for me, is still the question. I think we need leaps. I don't think we need strides or little steps.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And for me, it just seems like such a difficult kind of Rubik's Cube of a puzzle, because you're trying to bring down the cost, because, you know, at the moment we've only got, 9 World Rally cars from 3 marques, all of which the seats are locked down, and we've got a lot of very, very capable rally winners sitting with no drive. But see, the cost of these cars is obviously out of control. But when you introduce, but obviously it's essential we introduce new propulsion technologies, whether that be hybrid or full electric or whatever. But of course, developing those, as we saw at Le Mans with the LMP1 hybrids, they just spent itself into oblivion. So, I mean, I wouldn't want to be the one writing these rules to try and balance all those things together. And it's interesting to know whether, are the manufacturers simply, you know, are they happy to say this is a hybrid, even if the technology underneath is pretty basic to keep the cost down, or are they saying no, we want to come here as effectively glorified R&D? Which do you think? Is it manufacturer dependent as far as that's concerned? Do you think?
Well, I think it has to be manufacturer attractive. They've got to be able to find some way, as I mentioned, to justify the spend, to justify their involvement in motorsport, and is hybrid enough? Well, as I said earlier, we'll wait and see. The cost of the cars is an issue. There's absolutely no question about that. What's happened with this new generation of World Rally car, it looks and sounds utterly spectacular.
Yeah.
It looks spectacular sitting still. It looks even more spectacular going around the corner at 125 mile an hour.
Mm-hmm.
But what we've done since 2017 is we've killed privateer rallying at the top level. It's gone.
Yes.
It's no longer there. It's no longer there. Malcolm Wilson used to sell between 13 and I think it was 17 or 18 World Rally cars a year.
Wow.
I think he sold 5 in the past 3 years. 5. So, and it's, we're not just talking the cost of the car. The basic cost of the car is one thing. The running cost of the car is what makes it prohibitively expensive for privateers. And it's a real shame because, the championship, again, it's not its USP, but it certainly has been something that's been quite unique about this championship is that, privateers are welcome. Privateers can compete at the highest level, and privateers can compete relatively well at the highest level.
Mm-hmm.
And in the past we've seen the likes of the Abu Dhabi World Rally team with Sheikh Khalid. We've seen Nasser Al-Attiyah competing. We've seen Yazid Al-Raji. We've seen the Stobart's team.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a lot. Martin Prokop, his team. We've seen Mads Osberg competing in privateer cars. The Munches boys from Argentina competing. And these guys were never going to win rallies. But they competed well on the stages. They added to the drama, they added to the attraction of it. It was a rally within a rally at times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's gone, and that has gone, and that for me is actually something that's quite worrying, and it's something that should be addressed. And these new rules don't address that. Mm-hmm. Yes, we've moved away from this real concern about the €1 million rally car. That would have just been an absolute nonsense, And they are talking about single engine for the whole season, keeping costs to around about €500,000 for the car. As I say, the other big issue is the running costs, and they have to look at that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not doing anything in these regulations, particularly to re-engage the privateers. And what we'll find is that the privateers will go off and do other things, and that is a loss to the World Rally Championship. That's for sure.
Oh, unquestionably, because it's as I said, that to have you've just not got enough seats to encourage that. I think you'll end up with not only the privateer efforts drying out, but also actually talented drivers coming through. Because if you look at it, and you've got 9 seats in total, it's tricky. But I mean, how great a challenge do M Sport face in all this? Because they've carried the can so well for so long, with minimal support compared to the competitors. Does this just make it even more difficult for them going forward, do you think?
Enormously difficult.
Yeah.
Enormously difficult. When we look at the other 2 teams in the championship, you've got the Toyota team run by Tommy Mäkinen, and you've got the Hyundai team run by the guys in Altenau in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And they run on very big budgets, and they're effectively full manufacturer teams. As you rightly say, M Sport runs on a fraction of that. There is support from Ford, and there's technical support, chassis, that kind of thing. but it amounts to a fraction of what the other two teams run on. If you were in Mexico a few weeks ago, and I remember being quite shocked almost when I asked about the number of people that were there from M Sport, and they were running. Well, I can't remember how many cars with the R5 cars that they were running there. M Sport themselves, maybe 5 cars, 6 cars in Mexico. I can't remember off the top of my head. But there were only 40 people, and that included chefs, marketing people, 40 people within that team. And they made things work, and they put a competitive car out on the stages with 40 people on event. It's a phenomenal effort. And I personally can't sing the praises loudly enough of Malcolm Wilson. He's done a quite incredible job, and as you rightly say, he's kept Ford and M Sport in the championship for many, many years. But the basis for the business model at M Sport is running cars. They sell them, they run them.
Yeah.
With no rallies, they're not selling any, and they're certainly not running any cars.
Yeah.
So you have to be a little concerned, and you have to wonder, how long can M Sport stand this situation for? But Malcolm is a very, very canny operator, and if anyone can make things work during this difficult period, in particular for the likes of M Sport, then Malcolm Wilson can make it work, because he really does. He knows the business of motorsport, and in particular the business of rallying, better than just about anyone else in the world. It's a fair observation to say that we would be a little concerned, but not too concerned. They will find a way, I'm sure of that.
Yeah, they are such a resourceful outfit. I have the greatest of admiration for them. Let's look back. I know we thought we'll try not to be too retrospective, but it's there's one question I want to pose. Richard Burns versus Colin McRae. You came into rallying at kind of at the tail end of their careers. How did you compare them from your experience seeing them at close quarters?
I'm not even going to go there.
Really?
I don't have enough. I just don't have enough experience of the McRae and the glory years. You're right. I came in 2002, and we were very close to signing Richard when sadly he was taken ill.
Yeah.
And the budgets were agreed. I think we may even have been at the tobacco company putting a little bit of extra cash into what was already a pretty substantial budget to bring Burns back to Subaru. Very different characters, both magnificent champions for the UK and for British rallying. But no, I'm not even going to offer you an opinion on that. I'm sorry. It would be unfair of me. It's not right. I didn't know them. I had a couple of really great events that I covered where Colin drove for Skoda.
Yes.
In 2000, and would that have been
05 with the VRS?
It was, wasn't it? It was the end of 5. It was Australian GB.
Yeah.
And then he did one for Citroen. I remember, was it Rally Turkey he did with Citroen?
Did he not stand in for Loeb in the Kronos car?
He did, didn't he?
Yeah.
He did. But no, I knew Colin not well at all. I didn't know Richard, sadly, but growing up in Scotland, you know what it's like, Peter. Growing up, Colin McRae was in Scotland. We love our sporting superstars because we're a small nation, a bit like the Kiwis, the New Zealanders, all the Finns, even.
Yeah.
We're a nation of 5 million people, and when we can produce any kind of world champions, we absolutely laud them, and they are superstars in Scotland. And McRae was a superstar. No question about that. So, I followed his exploits, but I wasn't a massive rally fan at that point. But I felt very honoured to be able to interview him at Stop Lines in 2005. And yeah, it was great watching what they could do. Even in 2005, he should have had that podium for Skoda on Rally Australia, and it was nothing to do with him. It was a problem in the service that cost him a podium there. It would have been a glorious way to more or less round out his career. It
would have been, actually. I mean, this is in the kind of early stages of my sort of fledgling career in motorsport, and actually I used to read Autosport magazine as a kid. I used to love Autosport Thursday, and my first ever article published there was, I wrote quite recently about Colin going to Skoda for those 2 rounds and going to Australia. But it's just the PR impact. What was it like from your perspective, the PR impact that those 2 rallies going? What did that do for Skoda as a brand from your perspective?
Yeah, there's an argument that Colin McRae was the only true global superstar of rallying that we've ever had.
Yeah.
And part of that was his exploits on the stages, and people loved what he did, and they loved his character. The other part of that clearly was the Colin McRae computer game. That helped massively to build his profile. But for Skoda, it was just phenomenal to watch the reaction of the fans to McRae being back. It did give Skoda some credibility. We did go to Australia, and he did drive that car just phenomenally well. And had it not been for that problem in that service, he would have taken the podium. But the buzz, it was just the buzz that followed McRae everywhere he went. I remember being at the Scottish Motorsport Show in 2006, I think it was, 2006, in a Metro 6R4 with Colin.
Wow.
It was quite phenomenal. And he was just such, he was a lad, make no mistake about that. He enjoyed himself. He went out, he knew how lucky he was to be able to do what he was doing, but he was also quite a shy, quite a humble sort of guy. It was the buzz that followed him, and sometimes he was quite, or it appeared to me anyway, certainly from that time at the Scottish Motorsport Show, he was a little uncomfortable with all of that. He wasn't, he kind of thought, well, I just want to go out and drive, and to have thousands of adoring fans screaming at him, maybe didn't sit entirely comfortably, but that's the sort of guy he was. He was a super bloke, and obviously both Colin and Richard very, very sadly missed by everyone in motorsport, and in particular in the world of rallying.
Yeah, they are. Let's talk about we talk about superstars. The two most recent superstars, Ogier and Loeb, those are two guys you've seen at much closer quarters. Tell me who impressed you most and why between the two.
That's another difficult question, but one that I have to answer, because I saw nearly all of Loeb's victories, and I've seen all of Ogier's victories in the championship. I like Sébastien Ogier personally. I like him as a person, and I absolutely respect him as a driver and a competitor. And that's not to say that I don't like Loeb. I do. Very, very different approaches. Loeb obviously won every single one of his rallies and all of his 9 titles with Citroën. And it was during a decade where Citroën were entirely dominant. And were they entirely dominant because of the budget, because of the resources, or because of the driver? Well, it was a combination. A combination of all of those things. And Loeb was entirely dominant. But what Ogier has done, he's taken some gambles in his career. He's never been afraid of voicing an opinion. And he's fought against some proper adversity. He went to... he took a year out to go to Volkswagen. He dominated the stages with Volkswagen, so the FIA changed the rules to try and stop him. They failed, but that rule change way back when, I think it was the second year of the Volkswagen involvement, where the championship leader ran first on the road for the first 2 days, effectively 3/4 of the rally, because day 3 is nothing on modern rallies, was solely aimed at stopping Ogier. And he still won gravel rallies first on the road. It was a phenomenal... And there was a lot of bad press at the time saying, he's a whinger, he's a moaner. No, he wasn't, and he never has been. But what he is, he's a competitor, and he's a fierce competitor. And he's a fierce competitor who doesn't shirk away from voicing an opinion. And, if you think the rules are being loaded against you, then, fair play, speak your mind. And he did speak his mind. And I thought that was phenomenal. And then he went to M Sport, and what a job he did at M Sport there for 2 years, 2 more titles. He did, and we'll forget about next year when we look back on Ogier's career, but we shouldn't, because he did an incredible job at Citroën last year. That was a very, very, very difficult situation he was in. Yeah. And to win, 3 rallies, 2 or 3 rallies, however many he won last year, and to leave himself in with a chance of winning the title so late on in the season was an incredible effort. If we do get a world champion this year, my money is on Ogier at Toyota. And to win as many rallies as he had, or as he has done, and to take titles with 3 different manufacturers, for me, would just edge it over Loeb in terms of the greatest driver. I think the fact that he's been prepared to go to take the risks and to prove himself out in the stages, for me, means that my vote would go for Ogier. But Ogier, Loeb, you're both products of a very, very proactive motorsport association in France, the FFSA, proving that, you can back drivers and you can find winners and that's the way to promote sports. Rallying is popular in France because of Loeb, because of Ogier. I think maybe in the UK we've missed a little bit of a trick over the years, and that we haven't backed drivers from an organisational point of view. But the French method proves that it works, and they've had the two greatest drivers, perhaps of all time, that have come out over the past 20 years from that FFSA programme.
I think that they have to be in that they have to be right at the top of that discussion for the best of all time. No question about it. What amazes me in the service part right now, and it probably relates to your point there about the support from the governing body. You look at how many former World Rally winner, World Rally champion offspring there are in the service part right now. You got Elvin Evans, son of Gwyndaf. You've got Kalle Rovanperä, of course. You've got Oliver Solberg coming in. Amongst, is it now that you need that almost that rallying back? You need almost that world champion background to be able to lay the path to make it to the WRC nowadays.
Well, I asked that very question yesterday to Mikko Hirvonen. Did an interview with Mikko Hirvonen yesterday, and I asked him that very question because it's the three you mentioned there. Elvin Evans. I always forget to throw Elvin into the mix, but you're quite right to throw Elvin into the mix. Elvin, Kalle, Oliver. But then you've got the young Schwartz. I'm Schwartz's boy.
Of course, yes.
Making some inroads. You've got Max McRae, who is Alistair McRae's son.
Yes.
Who was involved with us at Dirtfish, also beginning to make inroads. What is it? It used to be that money and talent would give you a chance to make it in the WRC. You could now argue it's money, talent, and opportunity, and that opportunity perhaps comes from the name, but that's fairly obvious that that's going to be the case. The likes of Oliver Solberg, as I say, in 2002, he was at that dinner.
Yeah.
Pushya.
Yes.
Pram at 11 months old, whatever he was. I can't remember how old he was at the time.
Yeah.
He has been around World Rallying forever. It was inevitable that he was going to go into rallying, and that's the same for Rovanperä. Maybe not quite so obvious for the likes of young McRae or Schwartz, but there is opportunity that their family and their family links and ties give them, and I think it would be a shame if that was the only way you could get into the top level of rallying, but I don't think it will be. I think there'll still be Ogiers coming through, there'll still be Loebs coming through who come from backgrounds where there isn't family money necessarily, where they've achieved things at the very basic level of rallying, and then they've been spotted early on, and they've been nurtured through the different levels of rallying. It is very, very difficult. There's no question about that. Money is still a massive factor. Opportunity is now becoming a massive factor in rallying. But there will still be, I think, the ability to recognise exceptional talent, and we'll still see exceptional talent coming through that might not be from a moneyed background or from a named background. I really hope so anyway, because the sport becomes a different sport if we don't have those kind of drivers having at least the opportunity to make it through. And we have to say that the likes of Pirelli coming back with their, the Pirelli Star Driver Scheme, remember, gave us Tanak, it gave us Hayden Padden, and a number of other drivers. It gave them their break in the World Rally Championship. We will see a reincarnation, if you like, of the Pirelli Star Driver when they're back involved in the World Championship next year. All of these initiatives, the FIA have got an initiative running now that starts with esports. Now, esports is a completely different thing for me, and I have concerns about esports, but I can see what they're doing with esports. The FIA to, if you like, is the first couple of rounds of some selection process. But the most important thing there is that there are these schemes that potentially allow raw talent who maybe don't have the opportunity of other young drivers to potentially make it into the World Rally Championship. So important we have those sorts of schemes.
Absolutely. And do you think that could come from the kind of manufacturers, you like Hyundai, Toyota? I mean, clearly Toyota in particular, it's coming it's a passion project right from the very top of the whole company. Do those kind of routes to the WRC, do those routes have to come from the top, from the manufacturers, to go down into the junior category, so getting people in cars backed by the manufacturers, or do you have to go into the commercial sponsorship to fund that, do you reckon?
Well, I think it's a combination, isn't it? And I think the manufacturers will all argue they're doing their bit. Again, a question that I asked the other week when I had the opportunity to talk to the 3 team bosses. Should there be potentially an initiative from the FIA that says the third car in the team is a junior car?
Yeah.
And what they all said was that we're already doing our bit, and they're right. Toyota are doing their bit. They brought Kalle Rovanperä through. They gave Esa-Pekka Lappi his opportunity. Takamoto Katsuta, very much a product of the Toyota program. And you look at Hyundai, what they're doing now. They're making R5 cars available, and they have quite a few initiatives running in various markets, in various championships around the world, to encourage young drivers into their car. And M Sport have always been about encouraging young drivers. So I think they would argue that they are doing their bit within the commercial boundaries of what they have to deliver. So, there could be other schemes that maybe we could have a look at. But right now, the manufacturers, I think, would say we're doing our bit, and maybe it's down to the FIA to other commercial partners to encourage the young driver schemes. And that's what, as I say, we're going to see next year, certainly, with this Pirelli scheme, this FIA scheme. So, I think things are looking better than they have done for young drivers in the last few years anyway.
Absolutely. I think, in general, the sport as a whole, at the point we look at right now, I think people look back on the last 3 years or so as a real golden period. I mean, there's in so many storylines as well. I mean, like I just loved watching Ogier at M Sport, and I think it was great to see M Sport finally get the just reward that they deserved for the work they put in for decades, to be honest. And these cars are obviously absolutely spectacular machines, and the all live. Although there are things to improve with it, the all live is to be able to watch a rally live stage by stage is something that I thought would never happen, to be honest. So I think we're in a golden period almost right now, but it's keeping that going, I guess.
That is the challenge. For sure, the 2017 regulations were an enormous success, and that year, 2017, you look at ticket sales for the rallies that year, and they were up massively. People wanted to come back out into the forests and get out and see these rally cars because they were so spectacular. The FIA got it absolutely bang on, and 2017 we saw, I think, 7 or 8 drivers winning rounds of the championship. We didn't have dominance. In the noughties we had Citroen dominating, we had then Volkswagen dominating. 17 was a different year. There was no absolute nailed-on favourite. There was no one car that was miles better, one driver that was miles better. And when you have, as you rightly say, stories emerging, 3 drivers going to the final round with a chance of winning the championship, really it was just drivers winning their first rally. It was a great combination. Maintaining that is going to be a challenge. It really is going to be a challenge, particularly post Corona crisis. How do we maintain it? How do we maintain relevance? How do we maintain value for money? How do we offer the spectators what they want? There are lots and lots of questions that need to be answered. We've got this new technical spec for 2022. How is that actually going to roll out? How is it going to be received by, most importantly, the manufacturers and their accountants, I suspect. So there are challenges ahead, but the great thing is that we're going into a difficult period from a relatively strong position. I think a lot of sports are going into this difficult period, and motorsports, but a lot of sports from a very difficult position. And they are the ones that will struggle to survive. I think because we've come from a strong position where people want to see rallying, people are interested in rallying, people see the relevance of rallying again, then we have every right to be optimistic about the future. I think if we've been going into this crisis in, say, 2011, 2012,
not so good.
It would have looked very bad and potentially catastrophic. But we have got a good base to defend our sport from. And let's face it, as in business and sport, there's going to be a lot of defending going on. There's going to be a lot of, battles to be fought ahead, really just to survive in what's going to become a more vicious world sporting environment, people will be looking for sponsorship. People will be looking for investments. They'll be looking for value, and we need to be strong in our offering to be able to fight in that difficult environment. And I think we've got a good basis, and we should be able to do that.
I agree. I completely agree. Look, focus back on you, Colin. I mean, you've had an amazing career in rallying in the last 10 or 15 years. But what's been, in the broadcasting side of things, what's been your greatest personal challenge that you've had to overcome to becoming a leading figure in the rallying media, and now what you do with Dirtfish and stuff? But in your early days of it, what was the biggest challenge that you knew you had to overcome, and how did you get over it?
There's a few. Being yourself is difficult. I'm not a trained journalist. I'm not a trained broadcaster.
Mm-hmm.
I do what I do. For years, I was told that wasn't the right way of doing it for television, but that was by people who were working to a formula, and it maybe didn't fit in with their formula, but apparently it does fit in with lots of lots of other people want. But no, it is. The media world is quite a cutthroat world, as I'm sure you've found out over the years, Peter,
mm-hmm.
and it's not easy at times, but we're very privileged, and I'm certainly not going to sit here and complain about anything. Because I have had a very fortunate time in motorsport media. I've managed to establish myself. I've managed to find something I'm pretty good at, which is always great. When you look back and you think, was I actually good at anything? Well, yeah, I can pretty comfortably say I'm good at what I do. Personally, challenges. I was pretty sick about 10 years ago, and that was a difficult one to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time where I thought I would potentially not get to a stage end again. I would not get to a rally again, and that's quite a sobering thought.
Yes.
But what it does is it refocuses the mind, and you accept just the good things in life a lot more, and you realize that life is to be lived. And that's what I've tried to do for the past 10 years, and it's what I continue to do, and what I've been given the opportunity to do at Dirtfish, just to go out and live my life and live my passion and make a living from it. And it's a very privileged position, and I would never take that for granted. I never get complacent about that. I know how fortunate I am to be in this position, and I'm thankful every day for that.
Oh, I can imagine. What the greatest joy to go out and indulge your passion that way. How do you, what kind of methods do you use to prepare for your role as a commentator, stage end interviews, that kind of thing? How are your best methods to prepare for that?
If I was a commentator commentating on a motorsport race, I would prepare very differently. I'm sure of that.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of what I do is about my opinion. And my opinion I form just by trying to be as informed as I can.
Yes.
I read what I can from whatever sources, and nowadays a lot of it's social media, through Facebook, through Twitter. I try not to read too many press releases, because press releases for me are they're not an awful lot of value to me, I have to say, in terms of forming opinions. I prepare by just by trying to be informed. To be totally honest with you, I don't think you can ever read too much. And I read an awful lot, so that's how I prepare. I've never been one for going back through the history books, and maybe I should do. I don't know. But I don't go back and look at the history of races before I go to an event. I'm very lucky in that I've got a really good memory, and being out on the stages for the radio over the years, I had to follow absolutely everything that was going on, and a lot of the time I was there when it was happening.
Yes.
At the stage ends.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a very good memory for that, so I'm very fortunate in that regard. But there's nothing particular that I do, if you like, to prepare for an event. I just make sure I know where I'm going. I've got my plane tickets, and off I go.
And what's been the most memorable stage end interview or moment at stage end in your time, would you say?
I think the most memorable was Loeb. I think it was his 6th title. First time we ran Rallye de France we just moved from Corsica, and we were in the Strasbourg area. And the final stage was the super special around Hagenau. Hagenau was Loeb's hometown, and the rally finished outside the town hall in Hagenau.
Wow.
It was where Loeb had grown up, basically, and he took his sixth title there, and the crowds were massive. They were absolutely massive, and the noise when he completed that super special and he stood on top of the car, and it was probably the only time that I've seen Loeb in tears, and he was in proper tears, and it was
wow.
It was just magnificent to be there, just to describe the atmosphere and to see the adulation, to see the respect, to see how much the people of, in particular, that region, the Alsace region, adored Sebastian Loeb. Mm-hmm. And then to see his response to that was very, very special. And whenever I talk about that, it reminds me of Murray Walker. Murray Walker, what a remarkable man he is.
Yeah.
I remember watching a documentary, and he said, the greatest privilege in my job is to be able to stand at the shoulder of sporting giants and proclaim their greatness to the world. And that, when you think about that, that's, as a commentator, sporting giants, and to tell the world just how great they are. And in a very small way, I felt that day with the radio broadcast. I think the stage may have been live on. It wouldn't have been all live. It was pre-all live days, but maybe the super special was live on the television. But the radio was really the only live outlet for that. And to be able to stand there just below that car as Loeb stood on top of that car with Elena, tears streaming down his face in front of the town hall, the French tricolours flying, the crowd going absolutely wild. I felt that. I felt the honour and the privilege of proclaiming Loeb's sporting greatness to the rally world. It was wonderful, and that for sure was quite probably my highlight, I would imagine, of my stage ends.
That's a very special, very special memory to have. Last few before we let you go. What is your favourite rally to travel to? Would you say?
I've always had a soft spot for Australia. I like Australia. I do quite a bit of work in Australia these days, and I love going to Australia. I love the Australian people. I love the Australian culture. The whole working environment in Australia is wonderful, and Rally Australia has always been very, very special. Probably the best run rally in the world in terms of media. We're always exceptionally well looked after out there, and I just love the kind of spectacle of Rally Australia, whether it was in Perth or wherever it might have been in Coffs Harbour. It was just always quite something different. So it would either be Australia or Argentina, and for similar reasons. Argentina, just the crowds are phenomenal. The countryside's amazing, and it's a proper adventure to get there, and it's a proper adventure when you are there. So always difficult to choose between Australia and Argentina, but if I had to, I would probably say Australia.
And because in Argentina, you've got to remember to turn the bedside radio off, of course.
Oh, yeah, you've read that story.
I have, yes.
Yeah, that
very
was one
good.
of the more bizarre moments. I kept awake all night by what I thought was music coming from the bar in the hotel. For 3 hours, I sat there thinking, just turn the music off. It's time to go to bed. And then discovered after a phone call to reception, there was no one in the bar. The bar had been empty for hours. And there was one of these 70s style headboard radios that was on. And that was what was keeping me awake. It was very bizarre indeed. A long, long journey that was.
I can imagine. Last one, if you could have the crystal ball, if you could co-drive for one driver on one rally in any car, who would you choose for that?
Oh, it would have to be Colin. He was scared the shit out of me.
Brave.
I would choose a very short stage, but Colin in one of those Subarus, I think would be a remarkable experience. So, that would be my choice. A Subaru World Rally car, Colin McRae on a stage that was no more than 5 or 6 kilometres long.
Yeah, that's enough for him to put it on its roof.
I'm sure it was. Yeah, I'm sure it's more than enough for me to enjoy the experience.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, Colin, thank you so much for sparing so much time and coming on to the show. I wish you very well with the with the Dirtfish project. I think it's immensely exciting, and fingers crossed we see some rallying soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very much looking forward to it. We are trying to keep ourselves busy in this difficult period, but you're quite right. We want to get back out on the stage. It's been a joy talking to you. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast. It's been great.
No, thank you. And how can people follow you on social media and YouTube, etc.?
Oh, just look up Voice of Rally and you'll find me, or Colin Clark Rally. You'll find me Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, any of those. And give me a little follow. That would be very, very much appreciated.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time, Colin, and all the best.
Lovely. Thanks,
Thank
Pete.
you. Cheers. Bye now.